Welcome to a conversation with a dear friend and colleague in the field of education. We are going to be talking with Pasi Ikonen, who has been a teacher educator for 20 years in Finland. What is more exciting is that he's been a teacher in school for 13 years and somebody who speaks from a vast experience of working with both these spaces. Pasi is very versatile. He's engaged with international students. He's engaged with Finnish students for many years, as I told you. And what is interesting is he has the same energy that he has had many years ago, I'm told, and very favorite of the students and his colleagues. And today we'll talk about teacher education specific with Pasi. Hi Pasi, welcome. Thank you for your time. And I was wondering whether we can just jump straight in and talk about teacher education in Finland. Finland that's known so much for its work in education and teacher education. And if you can start by telling us, in your own words, what kind of role a teacher holds in Finnish society and what goes into preparing this individual as a teacher.
Thank you. Yeah. Nice to be here. Exciting also. To understand the current situation in Finland or the current position of teaching profession or teacher education, we have to very shortly look certain moments from the history. Of course, the first moment was 1860s when we started Finnish-speaking teacher education. The country was part of Russia and the upper society classes, they spoke Swedish. So it was kind of revolutionary thinking about train teachers who speak Finnish and teach in Finnish. Then, if we move very quickly, very important time was 1960s. There was a big political debate about how we should reform our educational system. And then the decision was made that we will have a comprehensive school. So one track for all children, no matter of their socio-economical or geographical background. And simultaneously, we reformed our teacher education so that all teachers, also primary school class teachers who previously had a shorter training, like 2 years training, decision was made that they must have not just bachelor degree, but a master's degree to be a qualified primary school teacher. And not just any kind of master degree, but master degree from the training program specifically designed to those who are going to be a primary school teacher. And that was a big moment. Simultaneously, we abolished our teacher inspection system, which was before that very strict. Inspector came and checked what you have done. But since we decided to train all the teachers to the master's level, the specific program, the ethos of trust and autonomy were emphasized very strongly. And that has kind of carried all the way to the current situation. And that is something that still is important part of teaching profession in Finland, that the society shows that they trust the teachers and they can give a lot of autonomy to the teachers. And as a result of that, Finnish teachers, based on several international surveys, they differ from many other similar kind of countries like Sweden and Norway, that Finnish teachers, they feel that their work is appreciated. In many other countries, teachers feel that they work hard, but their work is not valued. But in Finland, we have been somehow, I don't know why, but we have been able to maintain that teachers feel that even though the work is challenging and hard, and they might feel tired, but still they feel that the parents and society value their work.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
And that is very important because all this history has created this kind of positive cycle that the society in general values education. And the parents want to bring their child to school, and parents from all social classes, for example, consider that it's important that their children are educated. And simultaneously, because of this, teacher's profession is kind of profession that we get a lot of applicants to our teacher training programs because of this kind of general, even though teacher's profession is not that highly paid. I mean, the salary is okay. It's related to other professions. It's not the most best paid salary, but it's reasonable. Good.
It's reasonable.
Yes.
Okay.
So we get a lot of applicants to our teacher training programs.
Interesting.
And this is kind of a result of this kind of development. And still education and teacher education is considered to be very important for the society. One reason is that we are a small country, about 5.5 million inhabitants, and we don't have that much natural resources like oil or gas or diamonds or anything. We have a lot of forest and wood, but still, a long time ago, it became kind of general understanding that the only way we can, in a way, survive in international competition is that we train and educate all our children, not just the best ones, but we have to give a good education to all children. Of course, one could say that, well, shouldn't we do it even if we had oil or gas?
Yes.
But anyhow, it's the result is good. We have been developing the educational system and teacher education because of this idea that that's what we have to do.
Yeah, and you have done very well, as everybody knows.
Yes.
Right? I was wondering, what kind of processes do you have when people apply to become teachers? And because you mentioned that you have a lot of applications for teaching.
Yes.
So can you say more about that?
Yes. Well, first of all, because we think the teacher's profession is important. So not anyone can be a teacher in the way that we have training programs. First of all, you must have a master's degree in Finland to be a teacher, not just any kind of master degree. We have separate training programs for those who want to be a primary school teacher. And then we have training programs for those who want to be a subject teacher. And then we have training programs for those who want to be special education teacher or study counselor. And they all go to the masters. And then the application, nowadays the selection system is basically same for all. We've been, during these years, we've been testing and trying different kind of selection programs or systems. And fortunately, we have done also a lot of research. How does our selection system work? Can we select the right ones, those ones that we can train to be the best possible teachers? And we have found out that in our applicants, there are certain qualities or competencies that we can develop during the 5 years of studies.
So you look for these in your application?
Yes. Or we know that those exist. But more important is that based on the research, we know that there are certain qualities in person's mind or thinking which are very hard to change, even if we try to do it during the 5 years. We have found out that they stay and there's not much or any progress or change. So those qualities are very important. We don't want to have that kind of students. and these qualities are like connected to the attitudes and values. Of course, we want different kind of personalities. It's not. It used to be. People used to think that teacher must have a certain kind of temperament, for example. They must be outgoing and talkative and this kind. That's not important for us anymore. We want to have teachers who are more not shy but quiet. Some are more talkative. That is not relevant. But especially if what we are looking for is flexible minds, persons who are ready to, first of all, reflect their own attitudes and things and values, and who are ready to challenge themselves, and then capable to change their thinking if we can argue and show them during the studies that the way they think is not necessarily right way. And that is one of the most important things that we are looking for.
The open-mindedness.
Open-mindedness towards different people, different languages, cultures, whatever. Capability to maintain the capacity to act in difficult situations, in conflicts, and these kind of things. Of course, those are not easy to find because, of course, the selection, the time when we are selecting the students, we can't spend like
many hours
for each of the applicants.
That's right.
But still, at least those are the things that we are looking for.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
So the system itself is, it has nowadays 2 phases. First phase is basically testing the capability to understand a little bit about, not academics, academic skills maybe, but it's just the capability to read and understand what they have read and then formulate their answers.
Okay.
It's a multiple choice question. Basically, anyone can participate that. It's a national testing day, and hundreds and thousands of students come and they can't prepare themselves beforehand, because when they enter and then they have like 3 articles and they have certain time sets, maybe 3 hours time to read and then answer the questions.
Okay.
But there's a kind of shortcut. If your school results from high school, the national matriculation examination results are high enough, you don't have to participate this first phase. Because of this historical development, we have a lot of applicants to our teacher training programs, especially when it comes to primary school teacher training or special education teacher training. But in general, we still have a good number of applicants. So then comes the second phase. And when the second phase starts, we forget the results of the first phase. So everyone starts from the same baseline. So everyone is equal in that moment. Currently, the way we do it is we call it a bus stop interview.
Okay.
So instead of you and me interviewing individual applicant 25 minutes or half an hour, there are 5 bus stops, 5 different staff members to interview.
Okay.
And each of us has very specific theme and very specific 1 or 2 questions.
Okay.
With the very clear criteria.
Okay.
So the applicant comes first to the first bus stop. I make the questions and they have 5 minutes time to answer. And then I give the grading, and then the applicant moves to the next one and the next one and the next one. Why this kind of system? We used to do it in a way that there were 1 or 2 of us and we asked the same questions, all the 5 questions from the applicant. But we found out that for the final grading and results, our individual qualities
And perceptions.
yes, and perceptions influence to the results.
Okay.
Not much, but too much anyhow. So now there are 5 different persons.
So the evaluations are independent
Yes.
and then collated.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I don't know what the others are
Saying.
grading or saying or asking. So I'm just focusing on this.
Nice.
It's been developed nationally. Basically, I don't know which training program the applicant is applying who comes to my bus stop.
Okay.
It's not the perfect system. It's been developed annually, and it will be, of course, we have to change the questions. But since the questions are connected to this kind of qualities or attitudes, it doesn't help very much, even though the applicants knows the questions beforehand, because it's very difficult to find out what we are looking for. Yes. So that is the way we select the students. For example, in my university or in my department, in the primary school teacher training program, we take 100 new students annually. In the first phase, we have like 1,500 applicants. Then the second phase, we select 300 out of them. And from those 300, we select 100. So that is the system. Well, they have all gone through the Finnish basic education and the Finnish high school education. And then if the selection system is what we are using is working very well, it means that we should have, and we have, excellent first year students. So that is
that's where you start.
Yeah,
Working with them.
Yes.
Yeah, very interesting. So it's annually 100 students in your university.
In my university, for this particular teacher training program for class teachers, then there's a batch of new students for special education teachers and different subject teachers.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
I don't know the total number of
that's okay.
Yes.
That's okay. And then you have programs for each of these pathways.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
What would that look like? What would a pathway look like for any one of these?
Okay.
And what kind of actual things happen on the ground in terms of content, pedagogy, assessment, whichever you would like to talk a little bit about?
Let's start from the subject teachers.
Okay.
Earlier, the situation was that a young student who was interested in mathematics, they applied to the Faculty of Science and Math, and they started to study mathematics. And then at a certain point of their studies, they started to wonder, well, should I be a mathematics teacher? And then they could apply and come to do the pedagogical studies. Now the system is so that they directly apply to the training program to be a mathematics teacher. But still, all subject teacher students, their major studies are focused to the subject. So mathematics teacher, they do the basic and intermediate and advanced studies in mathematics. And those studies are organized by the particular faculty.
Yeah, at the university.
Yeah, at the university, same university, different faculty. And then the subject teachers, they spend 2 years and they come to our faculty, Faculty of Education and Psychology.
Okay.
And there they study educational sciences and pedagogy, the basic studies and advanced studies, including a couple of teaching practices. And then that is part of their master's degree. Okay. And then they get their master's degree, they are qualified to be a subject teacher. And they can teach that individual subject or sometimes 2 subjects on all grade levels, also the high school. So that's subject teacher. Then primary school class teacher, which is something that we have done like 160 years now. It's very important part in our minds who are teacher educators. Those students, they apply to specifically to be a primary school class teacher.
Mm.
Class teacher is a teacher who can teach all subjects on grades 1 to 6.
Mm.
And those students, their major subject is educational sciences, including basic, intermediate, advanced studies in education, plus important part of their studies is what we call multidisciplinary subject pedagogy studies.
Okay.
So
And that's common for all?
That's common for all primary school. Anyone who wants to be a primary school teacher, they must have those studies. And those studies are courses of each and every subject pedagogy that is taught on a primary level. So that is important part. And then, of course, a big variety of educational studies. Then there are these supervised teaching practices. It means it's a little bit different from the internship. We call it supervised because most of those teaching practices the students do in our own university school. And there's a supervisor from the faculty. And then the teachers in our university school, they are professional teachers, but they're also professional supervisors. So they can teach like grade 4 kids, but they also supervised our students.
So, and they're trained for supervising young people to become teachers?
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and that is we consider that is very important. Because if the student goes to a field school to do the internship or teaching practice there, if he or she is lucky, the local teacher in the field school is a good supervisor by nature.
By nature.
Yeah. But we cannot influence on that. It's out of our reach. But in our university school, all the teachers, they are trained to be supervisors. So that is, this system has pros and cons, but to avoid some of the cons, we also collaborate with the field schools so that the students go there and do various kinds of projects with the local teachers and local kids so that they can see, because the university school is in a way a little bit different compared to the field schools, a little bit better financed and so on. But to avoid that, we send our students also work in the field school with the projects. So educational studies, multidisciplinary studies, teaching practices, and then because once you get your master's, you are qualified to continue to PhD studies. Then part of the bachelor degree and master's degree, we have a bachelor thesis and master's thesis, which are quite big part of the degree. And then, of course, methodological studies, qualitative, quantitative methods.
Research methods.
Yes, research methods.
Okay.
So it's important part, even though the training programs are teacher training programs, and most of our students go to work in schools. But still, we want them to be kind of educational experts.
That's right. So
that they are capable to do all kind of things in the area of education. If you think about my personal history, a class teacher, several years in the primary, secondary, then at the university.
That's right.
And then training international teachers here and there. So our training programs must be in that sense
rooted in practice and in theory.
Yes.
Very nice.
Yes. So those are the kind of two paths: subject teacher, class teacher, or special education teacher. Well, because the world is changing and the educational system has changed in Finland, we have recognized that we should keep these different training programs, but we should bring them closer to each other. So we have organized our teacher training program so that more and more of our teacher students, as a part of their studies, they can get what we call a double degree or even triple degree. It means that the subject teacher, they have their masters from the main subject, and they do the subject teacher training studies, but they can include the multidisciplinary studies so that they are qualified subject teachers and primary school class teachers.
Okay.
And also primary school teacher students, as a part of their studies, they can take certain amount of courses so that, for example, from special education, so that at the end they are qualified to be a class teacher and special education, or class teacher and subject teacher of physics, for example. So we have more and more teachers with several qualifications. And this is connected to the changes in our educational system, because traditionally the primary schools were separate schools, and then there were lower secondary or middle schools and high schools, and they were all separate. So we trained teacher to the specifically certain type of the school. Nowadays we have more and more schools where we have grades from 1 to 9, for example. So when we have teachers with double qualification, they can work on all levels. So it's more flexible for the school and for the teacher. The teacher is qualified to teach from different levels.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of preparing teachers.
Yeah.
With breadth and depth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The way we organize our educational science studies has gone through a major reform in our university during last 10 years. When I came to university, when I studied to be a teacher also, we have more traditional style. We have certain amount of courses of educational psychology and educational sociology and the history of education and so on. Maybe 10 or 12 years ago, we started to restructure the studies and what we called a phenomenon-based approach to studies. So that we selected certain phenomena, and inside those phenomena we included certain approaches from educational psychology, sociology, and so on. Maybe in certain phenomena the emphasis is more from sociology, and some other phenomenon, for example, if the phenomenon is like interaction in general, it's more about psychology and this kind of things. But still, so if you look at our curriculum, you can't find like educational psychology anywhere. You just find things
no strict disciplinary boundaries like that. It's more multidisciplinary approach.
Yes. So, for example, there are courses, maybe if you go very down to the very bottom, there is a course about quantitative methods. But the phenomenon is scientific thinking and knowledge.
Makes sense.
Yes. So, and we have, in Jyväskylä, we have started to do this. It's a long process, not easy to understand, especially not easy to accept for all staff members.
I understand.
And not easy to turn to action in a way that also the student sees the phenomenon, not just focusing to the one course. So that is the big question we are dealing, and it for the student viewpoint, it would be easier. Okay, now we are studying educational philosophy. Okay, we studied the philosophy and then we studied the psychology. But now when things are intertwined or mixed, it's challenged the students that they see that, okay, in this phenomenon, I have to understand different approaches.
Which is actually close to reality.
Yeah, that's the whole point. That's the original.
No problem in education presents itself as just a philosophical question. And that's very, very, I'm happy to hear that.
Yes. And of course, it's the constant process. And especially because in Finland, we emphasize the importance that teacher education is research-based. We have emphasized it for a long time, that the research and the actual practical teacher education, the teacher education must be based on the research.
I understand.
And we should be able to, the research should kind of feed the teacher education all the time with the new results that give us more tools to understand how we organize our teacher education. And it's a long process.
Yes.
Never ending process.
I can understand. Yes. Very, I'm very happy to hear the way you've approached this whole thing.
Yeah.
Now, having done this, it's a 5-year program, right? It's a 5-year program. So having done this with young people who want to become teachers, what kind of world are they going into, as teachers? What is the current scene for young people as novice teachers?
Yes.
If you could throw some light on that.
We constantly struggle with this question because we should be able to give them competencies and skills to start their work as a professionals immediately when they graduate. Simultaneously, I always tell this to my my students that if you graduate 2024, you will be working as a teacher 2050. And you will be teaching children who are still alive 2150. So what are those competencies and skills that we should provide our students so that they can work immediately and still those competencies should carry them all the way several years. Society has changed. Also, Finnish society has changed a lot during the last 20 years. In many ways, a lot of schools has been closed down. A lot of small schools, rural schools, because people are moving from countryside to cities and towns. That's one change. Much more immigrants and refugees, and in many ways, the society is much more heterogeneous. Strong ethos of individualism, for example.
Yeah, all over now.
Yes. And very drastic change in children's well-being. Much more challenges in their psychological wealth, emotional well-being, physical well-being, challenge of obesity, and all these kind of things. Not even to mention the challenge coming from social media and digital world.
That's right.
Which is definitely, now we already know. I just read an article yesterday. We know that it's a big reason for these challenges.
Yeah.
So when the newly graduate students enter the school, the surrounding is challenging. It's much more challenging compared to time when I went to work as a teacher.
Yeah.
So they need resilience, and it's our job that we reform our teacher education so that they are capable to face all the challenges and they stay in their profession. Because there has been signs, not too bad yet, that too many teachers drop out during the first 5 years because they feel it's too heavy.
That's right.
And we cannot close our eyes. We cannot say, okay, we give you the degree, then the responsibility is somewhere else.
That's right.
Yes, we have to be very concerned about this. On the other hand, most of our students are excellent students from the very beginning, very open-minded, very flexible, creative, and that sense. So most of them, they will do very well. Yes. So, but well, we all know, no matter where you go in the world, which country you go and talk with the people on the field, teachers, they are facing the exactly same challenges. Of course, the situation is very different in Finland or in India in many ways. We have Nordic welfare society still in Finland. Many things are good, but the challenges is very same. Yes, and teachers are everywhere. They take their job very seriously, so they care about the kids. Yeah, so that is the situation in Finland.
Yeah. Oh, really, really nice to learn about this. Thank you, Pasi. Really, really happy to be talking with you. Yeah, thank you for your time. And thanks for letting us know all about teacher education in Finland.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.